And then, all right, so we are recording right now. Welcome everyone to the GIS, Intro to GIS session number 2. I'm calling it Getting Set Up with GIS. So thank you for being here. Just real quick to roll through the list. We've got Danny Moore. He wasn't able to attend last time, but thanks for being here, Danny. Min, Eric, Kyle, and Steve are all here from last time. So Danny, last time we did a little bit of a introduction, like, hey, do you have any background in GIS, or like what are you interested about in GIS if you are? So if you wouldn't mind just kind of saying hi to the group.
Yeah, I do graphic design, so this just interests me. So and I'm working with Matt on another project, and I definitely see its usefulness. So I'm interested in learning.
Awesome, yeah. So I put that other session up from the Zoom meeting. I just basically dropped it on YouTube as is. Did no editing because I'm super lazy, but yeah, you can go back and watch that. I think I sent the link out to most everybody. So were you able to see that, or?
No, I didn't realize there was a link.
No worries. I'll hook up with you later about it. But so I just kind of briefly went through kind of like what GIS is. Like you just said, we're working together on a project. You clearly know the basics. But I'm going to actually go through, like, from start to finish, creating GIS, like an actual layer from scratch, just to kind of demystify it and see how it gets created from scratch. So these slides are really dumb. I have no slides, but anyways, this is what we're going to do today. So today I thought of a good use case, which was using Strava, this biking app that I use and we've been talking about in the last 2 courses. You can actually use these free fitness apps to go collect GPS data on your phone, and it usually comes in as a point or line file, GIS file. So you can actually go use your GPS receiver that's on your phone or tablet, go create data in the field, come back to your computer, download it, and bring it into GIS. And so that's what I'm going to do first of all. Then this is something I actually do for like personal maps. If I'm making a personal map, and I showed this Google map last time for a Big Bend trip that I was hoping to take in May that got canceled yesterday, which is super cool. But anyways, we'll like generate just some data straight up using the Google Maps web browser, and then we're going to also look at, so I talked about the different types of GIS. We're going to do ESRI's Arc Pro, which is their desktop software. We're going to do that. That's the thing that I use for work, and it's what most GIS professionals use. But then we're also going to do QGIS, which is called Quanta GIS, and I think Kyle even said he used it, which is cool. And then it's completely free, and I actually did not have it on my computer. I downloaded it in about 15 minutes, opened it up, played around with it, and I was able to create GIS. So it's pretty easy to use. Once again, 100% free, which is really nice. But it's full open source, so there's just going to be a little bit less features and support, but it's a full-blown GIS, which is really neat. There's another thing called the boundless deployment of another open source GIS that I used to use, but it's a little bit, it's definitely a larger like file and program, and it's a little bit more in depth, but it's another free program that you can use. It's pretty neat. All right, so let's just get this out of the way real quick. I wanted to talk about the costs and options for GIS. So I'm going to, let's see if we can pull this over here. That's the browser, it's not gonna work. 1 second here. All right, so this is just my laptop. I have this pretty crappy laptop, but it works fine. What is this, Windows 7? It's pretty old. Anyway, so I have a personal license for the ESRI desktop GIS software. So they call their software ArcGIS. That's like the name brand of it. But the actual product that we use, it used to be called ArcMap, and they still offer it, but it's going away, and they have this new program called ArcGIS Pro, and that's what we'll actually be opening up and playing around with. But anyways, if you notice under this ArcGIS folder, there's all these programs. So ArcScene is kind of like, you can do like build 3D models in that. ArcGlobe is basically like Google Earth. And then, yeah, there's this ArcCatalog is kind of like a database administration application as well. So you actually get a lot of stuff, and it's only $100 a year, which for me, in terms of how much GIS stuff I do every year in my personal life, $100 a year is a great deal for me because I also get my own web portal. I guess I could pull that up real quick. I get my own web portal that I get to host data every year, and so with that $100, not only do you get all the desktop applications, you get online storage and a place to like park your web maps, so you can do all that. You don't have to worry about web hosting, your own website, or anything like that. Everything is set up for you for that $100. So once again, some people are kind of like, I don't want to pay anything for GIS, and you can 100% do that. But because I use this at work all the time, and you get a lot of stuff with it, it's pretty cool. So anyways, yeah, this is my ArcGIS Online is what they call it, website. And let's see, pull up some random thing. Yeah, so like this is, I made this application for a friend, just of like directions on how to get down to this certain spot at the river where we like to hang out. So yeah, this is just a hosted web map that I have as part of my GIS platform. So it's pretty cool. But that's what you get when you pay for this Esri product. I think it's a good deal, but let's ignore that and say it's too expensive, you're not going to use it. So we're going to first take a look at all the free stuff, and then at the very end, we're going to open up the Esri ArcGIS Arc Pro and take a look around in that. But we'll focus on open source stuff for now. All right, so let's go ahead and do it. So I actually I went out to my friend's house last weekend, practice social distancing. Don't worry about that. And then I recorded this. He has a cart track that he built in his backyard, which is pretty awesome. And anyways, I just thought it'd be a fun thing to like record. And then, so this is something I took on my phone. I did a walk around the track. It took all these GPS points. And so we'll be using that data as the basis for this activity. But once again, you can use any fitness tracker app or GPS tracker app that lets you download the file. So I'm going to click on this activity. It's going to pop up over here, and yeah, the Strava browser app has this, you know, a nice little API where you can turn on satellite view. This is clearly before his neighborhood was built, but you can do satellite maps or terrain or whatever. So anyways, I'm going to go over here to this little 3-dot button and say export GPX. And we talked about this in, last week. This is one of those interchange formats or universal file types that GPS data is stored in. So I just downloaded that. I have opened up QGIS. I already opened it up, so it wouldn't take a long time to load, but I'm going to go ahead and save this project. Let's call it Art Track. I'm just going to save it on the desktop to make it easy for me. So it's a new empty project. We kind of touched on this briefly. You're going to want to, like the projection system is going to depend on like what you're doing. At work, we use the state plane coordinate system, but that's because we have like survey grade data. WGS 84 is a worldwide projection, and it works really well for just any GPS data. So every GPS app that you have on your phone is in WGS 84. there are different reasons why you would not want to use that, but for the most part, it's going to be pretty standard and easy to use. So when you open up QGIS, it already actually starts in WGS 84. What's up, Eric?
Hey, what's going on?
Not
Late as
much.
usual.
We're just moving right along here.
Perfect.
So I just opened up QGIS, saved the project, and then we're going to go find that data that I just downloaded. So this is very familiar to me. This actually looks a lot like GIS, and I said I'd wait, but let's just go ahead and look at it. This is the ESRI Arc Pro desktop GIS application. And so over here on the left side, you have like all of your GIS layers. We haven't added them yet. They'll show up here in the left, and then you kind of navigate to get to all your files here on the right. And then in the middle, you have the map. And obviously up here, you have all your navigation and ribbon tools. So when we're looking at QGIS, which is the free version, it looks kind of the same, right? You can go find your files here. Layers are going to pop up here. So I selected new empty project. That opened up a blank map. All right, let's before we get too far, I just figured this out right before the meeting. We want to get our base map on the map first so we can kind of orient ourselves on where we are in the world. And I talked about this in the last meeting a little bit. It's actually just a bunch of pictures. It's called a tile package. And it's just going to show you like where the roads are and where buildings are and stuff like that. So I enabled this thing called Open Layers plugin, and OpenStreetMap is that free base map, the crowdsourced base map that people contribute to. So I'm going to click OpenStreetMap, and then bam, right here we have our base map. We live in Texas, or some of us do. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom in to Texas. And so now we have our base map. So we're good to go. We can now start doing GIS. So I downloaded that GPX file. It just went straight into my downloads file, you know, kind of like a normal thing. I'm going to go to users, downloads, and then Hinkenbergering. I think this is it. All right, so that file that I created in Strava, it created all of these things. So you can actually, we'll add it in here, but I don't care about a lot of those things. I'm just going to go down here and click select all. And it's very hard to see, but it grayed everything out, which means it highlighted them. And I click OK, and it's now going to import my GIS. And I can actually see it over here. So we're going to zoom down in here. And these are all the GPS points. The way that this natively collects data is in points, but because it's all time-stamped and in a table, it knows what consecutive order those points are created in. So it created a bunch of lines. And I'm actually going to delete all these because that was the wrong file. All right, what did I name it? Course selected. All right. So I actually wanted this one. I'm going to select all. Okay. So this is the line that was created just straight from Strava, just from walking around. And if I change this to we can't really see what's going on. So I actually want to take or get the satellite imagery. So there is a Google Maps plugin, which is pretty cool. So I went to Open Layers plugin again, and then added the Google Maps, Google Satellite, and that actually queried the database that Google Maps runs off of. So that's pretty cool. All right, so this is, if you notice over here in the little navigation panel, Google Satellite went to the top. It's actually covering up all my data. So in Esri, it pops up on the bottom, which is what you want, but for some reason it's on top. So I just moved it down there, so now we can see this GIS layer is on top of the satellite imagery. So one thing that's sort of a problem about your cell phone GPS. I mean, like, it's a couple $100 device. What can you expect? The line is actually not on the track where I want it, just because, it's a very cheap GPS receiver that's in your phone. It's not going to be super accurate. It is fairly accurate if you look at the map. So we're going to call it good enough. However, instead of using that GPS file from the phone, I'm actually going to just make a brand new file that goes around the track. It's actually closer to what's on the ground. So we're going to turn these off for now. And then as we were talking about in the last session, a shapefile was made by ESRI or ArcMap, which is the proprietary software that costs money, but they abandoned that data file, and they have a new thing called a file GDatabase feature class. However, the shapefile has become like an open source interchange format from now on. So all of these open source GIS programs now use the shapefile as well that you can add data to. So there's this button over here on the top left that says I want to make a new shapefile layer. So I'm clicking that.
Thank you.
The first thing I'm going to do, because I kept forgetting earlier when I was testing this out, I want to change this to a line. And if you remember from the last session, we have points, lines, and polygons. Those are the three options for GIS. Don't worry about multi-point. That's kind of complicated. So I'm going to call this cart track course.
It's really cool. So right now he's showing us GIS and how you can kind of make your.
Hey, Eric, can you mute yourself real quick?
And so this is.
What did you say?
Eric, can you mute yourself real quick?
Oh yeah, sorry.
You're good.
I was explaining what you were doing.
Oh, you're totally good, man. Okay, so I'm going to add a couple of fields, and I think I was explaining it the last week as well. You have your GIS data, like that's the actual location stuff that you care about, but the attributes are what make GIS GIS. You care about what are the attributes for each GIS feature on the ground. So comments is something I always add to everything, just so like if you're trying to collect data or make new data and you need to put something that doesn't fit in anywhere else, you just put it in comments. I'm going to say feature name, and then I don't know, track type. So you can put in whatever you want, right? I'm just adding columns here. So this is me building a GIS layer. So that's pretty cool. We've got our three fields that we can edit. I'm going to click OK. And so that just created this GIS layer called cart track course. So I was physically there, so I kind of know where this track goes. And I'm going to just start tracing over where I know that the track goes. But you can kind of see the dirt path here that we're gonna go on. So I've created my shapefile. It's showing up right here in this navigation panel, and then I'm gonna click toggle editing. As soon as you click toggle editing, it's going to allow you to actually add points, or vertexes as they're called. So I've done that. Now I'm gonna click add line feature. The start and finish point is actually right under this tree. So I know that it's here. I'm gonna click there. And then I'm just gonna kind of hastily draw this. It's not gonna be perfect, but it's gonna be better than the phone GPS. So this is where the track goes. And I'm just clicking. I'm not sure if you can tell, but I'm clicking every couple of feet. You can be as in depth or as little depth as you want. Some people get really crazy with it. So I finished this line, and then to save it, I don't know if you can, it's impossible to see, I'm sure, but there's actually a little dotted line coming out from where the mouse is. And as soon as I right click, it's going to ask me to fill out all of these attributes. So ID, we can say anything, spelled 99. Comments are Hinkenberg. Feature name is cart track, and the track type is dirt. So, you know, you could have asphalt, dirt, whatever. So those are all the attributes that I want to put into that GIS feature, and I'm going to click OK. And then, so it turns from red to yellow, and so now we have a GIS feature. Just for good measure, I also want to create a point feature class as well. So cart track Q, going to be a point, comments. Okay. So now it defaults to this point layer. I'm going to toggle editing, and then this is the headquarters for the cart track. So as you notice, it just dropped a point over on this house. And then let's make a polygon. So just for fun, we're gonna put a polygon in the driveway for no reason. So I'm gonna add my last shape file, which is polygon driveway. And comments. Surface. Okay. So once again, same stuff. I'm gonna draw this around driveway. All right, cool. So we have a point, line, and polygon. And I just made that. You saw how long it took. Very quick and easy to do. I'm going to make sure that this is saved. So save layer edits is there. Save layer edits. Save layer edits. I'm just clicking this button up here, and I'm going to toggle editing off. So if you take the Google satellite view back off, you can kind of see a better contrast of these layers. There you go. Okay, so what can you do with your GIS data now, right? You have it in your GIS software, you've created data, you're doing whatever, but what do you want to do with it? So one of the common things I like to do is I actually like to put GIS data in Google Maps, because I know that everyone can get to a computer and look at a Google map, or even better, they can put it on their cell phone and actually take a look at it there. So I'm going to open up Google My Maps. So just in Google, I'm going to type My Maps. And My Maps is it ties into your Google account, so you can make all these sorts of maps that you want, but it's its own thing where it's basically like a web GIS. So when you open up the site, you know, it shows you, it kind of centers in on America. I don't know if that's dependent on IP or whatever, but I'm going to go ahead and say, I'm going to rename this map, cart track map, whatever. I'm just winging it here, guys. So once again, started off a new map, renamed it, and then I want to add in all that GIS data. So I'm going to skip a couple of steps here. If you notice, it says these are the file types you can actually use. So hopefully you recognize KML, because we talked about that last week. And then GPX is the type of file I downloaded from Strava. Once again, it's just like a GPS interchange format. We don't see shapefile here. So if I click on select a file, and then I want to add in my driveway layer, it's going to say, nope, you can't do it. So there's a lot of different ways to get around this. We're actually going to do some conversions here in a second, but let's just actually pull in the Strava data real quick. So I'm going to go over here to downloads. All right. Mostly just car pictures here. Cool, can't find it. All right, anyways, so this is not the right file, but we'll add it in anyways. because it's a GPX file, it's just going to pop in there normally, and then it's kind of nice. It shows the where you started the recording and where you ended it. Once again, this is a new neighborhood that doesn't really show up on Google Maps, so we're going to switch. So they have an online base map. Google has this great base map, as you know, it's like very high resolution. So I just turned on the satellite imagery, and then we're back to seeing, we're able to see the house and everything. So yeah, basically the map is saved. Google Maps is, you know, auto save. So then if I was like gonna, you know, send this to somebody, I could, you can actually export this data to KML, which is nice. So if you want to like send just the data, but you can, there it is, click share, and it'll, if I want everyone to see this, I'll just hit publish on the web, and then you can actually copy this URL and send it out. And then, so now you've just created a web map that you can share with everybody. So that's pretty cool. If people are interested, the next session we can talk about like making a really in-depth web map. So like this one, you can turn layers on and off and do a bunch of fancy stuff with widgets, like measure areas and stuff like that. Google Maps doesn't really support a lot of that. Well, okay, so I say that. So there are all these widgets up here that you can use. So if I wanted to say, well, how long is the cart track? It is 400 feet from the start to like where you turn around. That's pretty cool. But you know, once again, you're kind of tied into what Google Maps lets you do.
Matt,
So,
I have a question.
Yeah, what's up, Eric?
So you using this, so this map that you've created that's accessible to the public, it's only accessible via your sharing, correct? It's not in the Google database for any you know, John Doe to come across.
So yeah, I think that there are two options, and so public on the web. So it says anyone on the internet can find and access this. So I think if you were to say, like, if you were to go to Google My Maps, which is its own site, and type in cart track map, you should be able to find that. But so if you want to restrict people, you would just say you want to restrict only people who have the link. So it wouldn't be, it's kind of like, I think YouTube has like unlisted videos where you can like put a video on YouTube, but you have to like send someone the link for them to see it.
Yeah.
It's kind of the same way. So you don't have like a lot of control over, you know, how private something is. But I lied. So you can share it with specific people too. So if I said, I want Eric Murdoch only to see this map, I could send it to you specifically. Because, so like, yeah, good example. Just type in any email address or whatever, and be able to share it. So there's Danny. So yeah, you actually do have a lot of control there.
Okay.
Did that answer the question?
Yeah.
So yeah, Google Maps is actually like pretty awesome just for like doing basic GIS stuff, which is, you know, I got a point that I want to show on a map or a line or like describe an area specifically. I think it's a really good thing. However, so the downsides of using Google Maps, like there's limitations on how much data you can put in there. So like if you have a lot of data, it'd be pretty rare, I think, for this crowd to run into this. But like for me, you know, let's say I have like 1 million points on a map, which is something that I do at work. I have data sets with millions of points. It wouldn't load in here. I think it's, you know, I'm making this number up. It's like probably like 15,000 records or something. It'll like throw an error saying this is too big. You can't upload it. So the reason why you would want to go transition back to your desktop GIS is if you have like a bunch of data that you're trying to maintain. And so I think like, so for like Kyle, he was talking about, he had a bunch of this data that he was trying to do some analysis on or like do some comparisons. So you would actually have your workspace on your computer, and I'm being super lazy right now and everything's just saved in my downloads folder, but you would actually set up your own, here, let's just do it now. So I want to make an actual GIS folder that I work out of. So I have this, I always, on all my computers, I have a C workspace folder that I just put all my junk in when I'm working locally. So if I wanted to say, I want to add a new layer, GIS folder, whatever, stupid name. So that is creating a new folder there. And so now I can start working out of this folder and putting all my GIS there. And it's just like really nice to have that, because if you ever wanted to export your GIS or back it up, you could actually zip up that folder and then put it on Google Drive or something, and then you could access it elsewhere. But the desktop GIS, like QGIS, that's going to allow you to like store a ton of data in one spot. Okay, so let's do a conversion. So I want to convert, because Google Maps wouldn't take my data. I actually want to, let's just get rid of this. I'm going to start fresh. I want to bring in my data from that we made in QGIS as a shapefile. So let's see, shapefile to, oh, this is all I do for work, by the way. I just Google stuff. So GIS is pretty easy as long as you know how to Google. Let's see, AML. So there's a bunch of cool free things. All right, this is, I should have prepped. GitHub and a lot of these developer tools, they have a lot of these free websites, so you can literally just put in any type of file and they'll spit it out. So I'm drawing a blank here. I'm actually going to cheat, and we're going to go, and I'm going to go find my data. So this is the ESRI. This is the proprietary stuff that I use that I paid for. I'm going to go find all the data that I just created, which I think is in document. Yes. So I'm going to add in the driveway. So I added it in and zoomed to it. And then there's the track, and then the house. So once again, these are all shape files, and I want to get them into something else. So let's see, what do we have? I'm just going to type in KML. This is a pretty neat feature. There's a bunch of, they call it the toolbox. And I'll just pop it open so you can see it. You can open. So in GIS, there are all these tools that are written. They're all Python code or whatever kind of code in the background that run and do GIS processing, but you can actually access them through the user interface and interact with them pretty easily. So this is how you use the interface with it. You'd have to like know that I want to be in conversion tools and everything. So check it out. I can already, I already found it, but the easy way is to just kind of get in here and search geoprocessing, and it says layer to KML. So I have a shapefile and I want to make a KML because that's what Google Maps wants. So I'm going to pop that open. And once again, you don't have to use this software to do this. You can find it online for free, but you know it's just like baked into this program. Somebody use it, and it takes a long time. That's cool. Whew. All right, we need some Jeopardy music or whatever. All right, finally, it's pulled up. So let's convert the driveway polygon output file. So basically, you just select from the dropdown. It knows that you have layers in your map. So once you click the down arrow, you get to select what you want to convert. I want to do the driveway. It automatically saves in the project folder that you have set up in this GIS format, but I don't like that because it's kind of hidden. So I'm gonna save it in C workspace, and I just created that folder, GIS folder. So I'm gonna save it there. So yeah, you've got to name it. So this is, Yeah, this is a well. So this is going to run. It shouldn't take very long, but this is another annoying thing. It's very nitty gritty, but I might as well talk about it. So this outputs to a KMZ, which is not a KML. It's a compressed format of a KML. So it actually sometimes you have trouble reading it, and I'll show you how to fix that in a second. But so I just did that. As you noticed, it said yes, we did the layer to KML, and I'm going to go ahead and run through the other few layers real quick. And then so now in that folder that we just created, I dumped these KML files, the workspace, GIS folder. Awesome. It's not showing up. Oh, it went straight into the root folder. That's fun. That's fine. We'll figure it out. Okay, so I'm going to go back to Google Maps and then import from workspace because it didn't save in the proper folder. See if it'll let me do all of them at once. Okay, so I asked it to do all three, and it only did the first one, which is fine. So I'm just going to go through here and open each one of these files individually. You have to add a new layer up here on the left side every time you want to import a file. But yeah, you should only have to do this when you're getting everything set up. What happened here? Here we go. All right, I thought it wasn't liking my driveway at all. All right, so another one. So you got your GIS data. We did a conversion. We're checking out all these different programs. One of the things you're going to have to do when you're like working with all this stuff, any GIS program, whether it's Google My Maps or Esri or QGIS, it just randomly assigns a color. So like it's really hard to see this line. So I usually come here and I immediately change the color to something bright, and I make the line a little bit wider. So now you can actually see it, right? Same thing with this point. It's tiny. So I'm going to make it, oh, look, I can make it a house. Can I change the color? Yep, I can change the color. And then you can also, sometimes you can make the point bigger or smaller. And then I don't like pink, so I'm going to change it to green. I mean, pink is fine, but for the purposes. So yeah, I just changed all the colors and then edited the, that's called symbology. That's what GIS, in the GIS field, it's called symbology. I don't know why, it's a made up word, but anyways, yeah, that's how you kind of like change the look and feel of your GIS data. So anyways, yeah, that's kind of how I interface with GIS in terms of desktop applications, but I also do a lot of stuff using web browser GIS as well. And as you saw, it's very easy to like move this stuff around, move the actual GIS files. And that's kind of what GIS is for, right? You get your data input. So we had our GPS data that we collected in the field, brought it into GIS. I cleaned up all the data, and then I pushed it out into a different format so I could put it on a web map. So I didn't really actually like go through how to create data in the Esri version, but it's very similar. So I'll just do it real quick. I'm back in my documents folder, and then I want to make a new. So you can also make a new shapefile from here. I just right-click the folder, new shapefile. It's the same exact process. You know, just like whatever GIS layer. We don't need to. We don't really need to go through all this, but like polygon, point, line, same deal. And then you add your fields, and then yeah, once again, creates the layer, and you can go about your business. So like if I wanted to add, if I wanted to edit this cart track course, all I would do in this program is go up here to edit, and then I would modify. And as soon as you click on this, it shows up with all of the vertices. Wow, this is drawing it. Here it is. So all of these green dots are actually what I clicked on the map to create that line. So like if for instance you're like, oh, that line's too shallow, I want to make it like kick in a little bit, you can actually just kind of move stuff around. So Danny, I'm sure you're familiar with this and like, you know, Illustrator or whatever. It's just you're editing scalable vector graphics. It's pretty straightforward. But yeah, that's how you would edit data, and then you can actually make multiple features within that layer. So I want to make a new course. So I'm going to start clicking around. My computer is being epically slow. So let's say that this is like Coda or something, and you have like a short course and a long course. I'm just gonna make a little short course here, and then bam. So I've created a new track, and then one more thing, since we're all here, if I wanted to, okay, I forgot to do the attributes. When we created this GIS file, remember we said that this was the cart track course, and we put all the comments in here. So this is, I forgot to do this when I just made the new one. So we're going to say short course is the feature. It's also dirt, and it's also the Hindenburger ring. So yeah, you fill in all your attributes, so you know what the actual GIS feature is. I'm going to click save. It's going to ask me to save all my edits, and then so and here's a cool thing you can do. Another part of GIS is you can have a ton of data and you can filter it down. So it's kind of hard to see the difference between the long course and the short course. So I'm actually going to come in here, and then this is called a definition query. And all it does is it takes your data and it filters out all of the data you don't want to see based on this query. So I want to say the feature name is equal to, and if I click on here, it'll give me all of my options that are in that list. And I want to select the short course, hit apply, hit OK. And then so now that that long course is gone from the map. So that's another thing you can do with GIS. Let's take that off. And then, so filters are a common thing that people use in GIS, but another thing is you can actually symbolize using the symbology on your actual features. And so like a good example of this would be for like the bike map that I was showing last week. You have like easy routes and then hard or difficult routes, and they're symbolized by different colors. That's all in the same layer, and we're going to do the same thing here. So if I wanted to say draw unique values, it goes into the layer, and it pulls up over here on the right side all of the different values. And so let's say I want to make the actual cart track oh man. Oh yeah, that'll work. Okay, so the actual cart track, I want this big fat line, and then the alternate short course track, I want it to be dotted. And so now, instead of having these two overlapping lines that look exactly the same, you can see the main course, and then you can see a dotted line, which is the alternate route on top of it. So that's another way that you can kind of differentiate your GIS features. So, yep, that's about it. Once again, I apologize for not having like too much prepared, but I just kind of wanted to show you like this is how you do GIS. It's actually very easy and cheap or free to get set up, and then with all these great new applications we have like Google My Maps and everything, you can do whatever you want with it. So yeah, I'm going to stop rambling and open up the room for conversations now, if y'all have any questions.
So Matt,
Yes.
actually my application is one of my applications is to verify the accuracy of our field survey crew.
Okay.
So for instance, if I just grab a whole set of surveys for a whole bunch of locations around the US, right? And then I create a like what you just did, but I probably would create directly a GPX or an XML, a KML, or even a shape file, and then I import it into KML into Google Maps. Then I can start putting little features to verify from a geographical perspective how far my surveyors found the coordinates compared to the actual visible feature on on Google Maps, because Google Maps is precise to within plus or minus like 1.5 meters, right? So that would allow me to have a pretty good visual of how accurate my stuff is, right?
Okay, so to answer your question shortly, yes, that is something that we actually do in my job at work. So they actually have field collected data, and we actually have these like insanely expensive GPS receivers. They're called RTK receivers, and they're down to, your accuracy is down to, it's sub-centimeter. So like you know where you are within an inch of like where the actual sensor is.
Okay.
So that is like very trustworthy data, and I could talk about GPS for hours. It's very interesting, like how it does all that stuff. So we have all this really rich data, but then sometimes, you know, like maybe the person who is actually doing it, they're standing 3 feet away from the actual like manhole that they were on. That's very possible, right? So even though the sensor is very accurate, there could be a lot of these problems introduced, like what you were saying. Maybe it's not in the right spot. The only caveat I will say is, so Google Maps, they fly their satellite imagery. It's usually about every 6 months. It's probably more frequent than that, maybe like every 3 months or so. They actually take up cameras and planes. That's how we get these aerial imagery. That's not satellites typically. That's for a very high resolution, where you use, a very lower resolution, you'd use satellites. So they're actually flying planes, and they fly them, they try to fly them at leave off, which is like usually in January. So there's not a ton of leaves on the trees. You can kind of see through the ground. And then also they try to make it to where it's at solar noon. So if you notice in this Google Maps, there's like, you know, the tree is casting shadow over here. That can be a problem, especially in like downtown areas, because it makes half of the map dark. So there's a lot that goes into making these satellite imagery raster files that we look at on Google Maps. The thing that Google Maps is concerned about more than anything is having high resolution temporal data, which means that, so like if you saw it earlier in the presentation, this neighborhood wasn't even like drawn on the base map with like where roads are. But as you can see, I just know because my friend lives out here, this road was completed like a few months ago, and it's already in Google Maps. So I say all that to say Google cares about having accurate, and I say that in air quotes, data, just because they want to see like, okay, we want the most up-to-date satellite imagery, but there is a very manual process. So GIS professionals are actually sitting there, and because it's a plane flying a camera, there's just a bunch of pictures being taken over and over and over again. And so there's a computer process that patches all the pictures together, but they have to like rectify it to the ground. And so if you can imagine, they're doing this for like all of Texas or something, right? There's going to be little variation. So like Google Maps specifically, like their data quality isn't like the gospel truth. So like if we're talking about, you know, this survey point was, you know, I need it to be within like 3 inches of accuracy. The actual base map might be shifted a foot and it's just, you would never really know. And it kind of depends on base map to base map. So that was a long-winded explanation, but basically you can't necessarily use like these public available base map imagery to like exactly ground truth, but we use it a lot in our work because, you know, it's actually not that bad. There's not going to be a lot of distortion, and it actually shows really good relative positions. So like, you got to imagine that this neighborhood is all in one shot, right? It's all one picture. So if I wanted to say, so I'm measuring this truck is 515 feet away from that truck. So that, I'm very confident that that's the truth. But yeah, just the Google images, they're very temporally accurate, but they're not survey grade products.
Okay.
I hope that answered your question. I kind of ranted there.
Yes, it does. Thanks.
So yeah, is there anything else anybody's interested in here, or do you have any questions? Did I kind of gloss over anything?
This may be more of the deeper questions for next time.
Yes.
But you showed us how to kind of manually put geographic features on a map.
Yes.
I'm very interested in how to represent data and create maps of different styles or whatever to demonstrate an idea.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
But then I'm also interested in some of the more computational stuff that some of these applications can do, like network analysis and route mapping. For instance, our fire department uses it to plot out estimated response times.
Yep.
Our parks department, on the other hand, just drops a 1 mile circle in every park and says,
yep,
this is the walkable area to it, while ignoring like the freeway, and you're not going to cross the freeway on foot to walk to a park.
Right.
So I'd like to get in and do some more detailed analysis on geographic features like that take into account barriers or just visualize like census demographic data.
Okay, very good. So yeah, actually next week, I think if people want to stick around, and it sounds like Kyle, you're still into it. So I think what we'll do is, this is a little bit bleeding into cartography, but that's fine. So the meat and potatoes is when you have your GIS data, and Kyle, I'm pretty sure you're in this camp. You don't need to actually make any GIS data. You're trying to make decisions based off of existing data, and I really definitely glossed over that on this session. So yeah, that we could spend an entire time just talking about that. And census data is a fantastic example because it's a very rich data set. So just for everybody else in the room, the census data, what they do is, I mentioned this at the last session, the U.S. Census Bureau produces all of these GIS layers for census blocks and tracts and all that. And then those don't really change, but they take the data that they get from the census every 10 years, which is why that's a very popular thing right now, right? They're like, please fill out the census data. So they're trying to get demographic data and socioeconomic data, stuff like that. So then you can actually like see trends of like, oh, hey, this is a, we need to be spending more money on this side of town or whatever. Like people don't have roads or bike lanes over there. So that's a really great example. So I think we should do that next week. We'll take just some data, polygon data, probably the census blocks or whatever. We'll join the actual data that we care about to it, and then we'll actually kind of do some analysis on those. Basically like how to use GIS to do analysis and make decisions. So that's really cool. And then the second thing you talked about, it's called network analysis. I have never explored it on QGIS. Please let me know if you know about this, Kyle. But usually it's like an add-in thing that you have to pay for on the Esri side of things, so the ArcPro, ArcGIS side of things. And then also you have to kind of feed it. It's pretty in-depth. It's a pretty heavy GIS task to do. but we can touch on that as well. So something that y'all know, everyone here on this call knows about is like if I wanted to go to my buddy Steve's house, I pull up my Google Maps app, I punch in his address, and it routes me the quickest way to get there in my car, right? So you're on your phone app, you have these geometric networks working on your phone. Granted, it's like asking a computer to do it in the cloud, but yeah. So that's kind of the stuff we're talking about, and yeah, it's very important knowing all of these things about GIS. Like you're saying, Kyle, it's a really great example. Not everything is in a perfect circle of where you're at, right? You have maybe a mountain or maybe a 50 foot wide river or bayou that you don't want to get your feet wet. So like knowing where the crossings are, like is there a bridge and all that stuff really affects the actual on the real world times and stuff like that. And that's why we have GIS and why we made it. Cool. Is anybody else have anything?
Yeah, I have. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, what's up, Steve?
Okay. What I was going to do, I was going to start with a different base map. And I found them, but like they cover the whole state of Texas.
Okay.
So I'm not really sure I want to down. I'm only interested in a specific area. And so, I mean, it seems like downloading every county in Texas would probably overwhelm my little laptop.
Yeah, for sure. So just to clarify, can you kind of describe what you're doing? Because I might have a better solution for you.
Yeah, I'm interested in some counties in West Texas.
Okay.
And I need the section lines. Yeah, out there in West Texas, they do things with the legal descriptions or public school lands, Block AX, Section 12.
Yeah.
In some county. And the GLO, the General Land Office, has all that stuff, and they even have imagery, you can put terrain on there. But, I just need, 5 or 6 counties. So I didn't know if there was
unless you have a specific base map that you're looking for, like something like that, I would actually recommend, and I'm not sure if you're using like actual GIS stuff, but so when we were looking at QGIS, you can actually choose what base map you want. So like when I first brought this in, so we're looking at this. This is it's not a vector, but it's basically a GIS layer created base map. So sometimes I just want to see like where roads are, but then sometimes you want to see the satellite imagery. This is all. These are all web services that we have. So instead of like actually having to physically download the base map, you can actually just access these services using your GIS software. So if that's what you're talking about, I would recommend that. So you're not like downloading all this stuff. But if you're talking about like actual GIS layers, like I don't know if you said this, but like if you wanted to see actual parcel data, you typically can download it from the website by county. So like I know for a fact, like if you were to go to search for Texas parcels on the TWBB website or something like that, you could say, I only want the parcels in Travis County, because that is actually a huge data set. The parcel data, as you can imagine, there's millions and millions of pieces of land.
Yeah, I don't need land ownership, parcels. I just need, each county is probably going to have, 60 or 70 sections in it. And a section is a square mile. And so I just need, the county map with the sections on there. I'm not interested in the ownership inside, inside any of those sections.
Okay, so is there did you find on the GLO site, was there an actual layer for the sections?
Well, when you look at there's I didn't download anything from them, but you look at their website, and yeah, there's I forget what they call it, but you know, you can show sections. There's several different things. And I guess I need to do a little more homework, but I don't want to download the whole, even if I get the layers right, I don't want to load the whole state of Texas.
Yeah, no, you're definitely correct there. So, if you want to hit me up offline, God, that's so cliche. If you want to just talk to me later, I can get you set up a little easier. There's also another thing that I do, a little GIS trick. So, if you don't already have them, I would definitely download the Texas county lines, and you can definitely get that from the Census Bureau or from other sources. But you can actually just take the counties that you're interested in. Let's say there's like 4 of them over there in West Texas. So the only thing on your map is going to be those 4 polygons, and then you can select by location. So that was another thing that I missed that I didn't show, but that's something that I do a lot. So if you have a huge data set, you would just actually select the data that you care about, and then you delete everything else, and then it makes everything work way faster. So yeah, there's definitely ways to do that.
Yeah, I just looked briefly after our last session. I haven't done anything else, but I guess I need to dive into what's available through the GLO or the Railroad Commission or TWD and see what the deal is.
Cool. Okay. Well, very good. Any more questions? All right. Well, thank you all so much for joining once again. It went about an hour, so that's about right. So next time, Kyle had a great idea. So we're going to talk about looking at data that already exists in GIS and doing some analysis and some visualizations to kind of show, the actual data that's underneath all the GIS features. And then if we get some time after that, if people are interested in that, I'm willing to look at web mapping and things like that. So yeah, just send me any feedback if you want to look at anything in particular. Otherwise, I'll do the same thing again. I'll send you all an email with this video recording on YouTube, and I don't really have a slide deck, but and then I'll describe the next session as well. So yeah, thanks so much. Y'all have a great weekend. It was good seeing everybody.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you, Matt.
Yeah, all right.
This is very
Thanks,
instructive.
Matt.
Thank you.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And if you have any kind of questions or want to know more, just let me know. Bye.
Bye.